Live from your mom, it's Saturday night! See Derick Miller, author of Starving Zoe. Let's get that up there on the screen. That beautiful, beautiful cover from Justin T. Kuntz.
He's amazing.
Isn't
Live from your mom, it's Saturday night!
Oops. Okay. Did I mention that we're not very professional here?
It's all good, man.
Okay. So while I'm searching for that here, first off, how long have you been writing, man?
I started writing back in 2007. So I know I don't have a lot of I've got a really big delay.
You do?
Yeah, it's almost confusing.
What, you want to try unplugging the headphones maybe and just use
speakers?
How about now?
Check. Yeah, it's about a 1 second delay.
Okay, can we live with that?
I can try.
Okay. The same thing happened with Edward Lorne when he was on, and we were able to get through it. I'll just try to pace it, my words carefully. I think that you, well, first off, you wrote this as part of a series of what's called the splatter westerns with Death's Head Press.
Right.
I think that there are things that were heavily misrepresented in several reviews of this book. For instance, the animal cruelty. Now, we know that it was the Wild West, and, whether it be, raiders, trolling for gold, or, crooked sheriffs, emboldening, criminals, or whatever, what have you, that they were probably not, being friendly to animals was probably not too high up on their lists, other than, any horses that they kept, right?
This book was an experiment from the very beginning. And I guess half the people think it's a successful experiment, and the other half thinks that it fell on its face.
Mm-hmm.
So I had finally read Catcher in the Rye at age 44.
Hang on. I think I know what's wrong. I'll be right back in 1 second, and hopefully you shouldn't have that delay.
Okay.
Okay, how about now? Is that any better?
Let's see. Check. Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I can't hear myself now, so it's perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so anyway, yeah, that's a weird influence to have.
It is, isn't it?
For something like this. Catcher in the Rye. Other than the character, one of the female pro and antagonist at different points being named Zoe,
right.
I can see.
I didn't even put two and two together on that. I mean, the main thing I took away from Catcher in the Rye is, number one, I was 44 years old, and I hated every word of it because the main character is a whiny teenager. Now, if I would have read this book as a teenager, I can see where I could have related to Holden Caulfield just a little bit. But the one thing I did love was the narration. You spend the entire book inside of Holden Caulfield's head, and he has some mental problems, man. I don't know. Have you read Catcher in the Rye?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Most people were forced to read it in school. I wasn't. But I waited until I was 44. But I did. I love the narration. I love the mental ramblings and the tangents he would go off on. And just, it was so like ahead of its time, really. So I got to thinking, and I said, what would a horror novel be like with this type of narration? It would just be psychotic. So I set out to write a horror novel with that type of narration, that first person rambling psychotic narration that J.D. Salinger used. Well, that was right about the time that I got contacted by Death's Head Press, and they're talking about splatter westerns, and I'm like, well, what if I did it in the Old West? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it no matter what. I just kind of started writing, just kind of got inside my own head for a little while. I reread Catcher in the Rye. I read some Hunter S. Thompson, which is some more, first person rambling narrative. And then I reached out to a lot of people in the splatterpunk community because I had never really read a splatterpunk novel before. And they all pointed at Header by Edward Lee. So I read Header and just fell in love with that book too. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be the brainchild of Header, Catcher in the Rye, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So I wrote it, and my wife, who has a degree in psychology, would come behind me chapter after chapter and tell me it's not psychotic enough. You need to crank it up. So I would crank it up. And then my beta readers just happened to be an entire basic training unit in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. My son was going through the Army, and I would send him chapter by chapter. He would read it out loud at night to the other people in the barracks, and then he would write me their responses. So, like I said, this was a crazy experiment. I don't know if anybody else would go through this much trouble to try and write something so crazy. But I wanted it to be crazy, and I have gotten exactly what I wanted. I knew it was going to be divisive from the very beginning. I knew that I was going to have hardcore fans and hardcore haters. I just didn't know that the first thing out the gate was just going to be so mind-numbingly stupid that it actually kind of sent me in a little bit of a depression spiral, because the very first review I received on Starving Zoe was 24 hours after its release. And this person had nothing to do. Okay, back it up just a little bit. I know this whole argument with the Nightworms thing has been going on. I've reached out to Nightworms and explained myself. There was a lot of misunderstanding. The very first review that sent me reeling was someone who is not involved with Nightworms at all. And when people thought I was complaining about Nightworms, I wasn't. I was complaining about this one individual. I just never bothered to explain myself. So this person took the book. The first Amazon review was hated it, 1 star, would not recommend. Well, then you go to Goodreads, and this person hated it, 1 star, would not recommend, and then elaborated. Everything she elaborates on happens in the first chapter. So she did not read past the first chapter. But the review goes on. I mean, if you hate the book, you hate the book. There's a lot of books out there I've read and I've hated. Yeah. I used to be a reviewer for a newspaper. I've read a lot of damn books I hate. But it went from, I hate this book, this is what's wrong with this book, to the author is a racist, a misogynist, an animal abuser because he wrote this character.
When people start wielding those words, they're no longer concerned about book quality. They have an agenda. I don't care what they say. We have had too much of these people slinging these words around. It's literally, it's like a more benign version of the Salem witch trials. Yeah. And I do not trust anyone who throws those words around, like so easily. The way they say them, and that sounds so natural. They do it over and over, and they've tried to basically revise and re-perspective and retcon every film in the Hollywood canon. Basically,
right.
This movie is wrong because this book is wrong because, and this century was wrong because of this religion. Right. This political party. They want to rewrite and revise everything. It is not exclusive to literature. Anyway, the charge of animal cruelty. The guy talks briefly in the first chapter, like you said, of having to bash a cat's brains in order to survive.
Right.
It's mentioned in passing. Now, I'm a huge animal lover. I've got more cats than I can count, and I've even nursed rabbits and chipmunks back to health. But there is not enough there to support a charge of flagrant absolute animal cruelty throughout the entire book, the way they were depicting it. That's dishonest. It's disingenuous. That's
It
not.
is.
And I don't even know if he ever even was cruel to the horse. He just kind of, got annoyed with it and insulted it. Did he? I think he may have shot the horse to get out of its misery. But other than that, I don't.
No, the horse died of unnatural causes at someone else's hands, not his.
That's right. So yes, and I mean, he was really just annoyed with the horse. I mean, he didn't I don't think he even whipped him really.
Yeah, the horse was comedy relief. That's what the horse was.
They didn't realize that. These readers did not realize.
No. I wanted to write something completely psychotic. I wanted people to spend 140 pages inside this lunatic's head, just like Catcher in the Rye. And if you go and you read the reviews for Catcher in the Rye, they're split too. I mean, this is either the greatest book they've ever read or it's the worst book they've ever read. There's really no in between. Like I said, I hated Catcher in the Rye, but I fell in love with the narration. I thought it would be a really crazy narration style for a horror novel.
Now, what did you hate about Catcher in the Rye?
Just I was too old. I was too old when I read it. I couldn't relate to that kid anymore. I'm a father of adult children now. I have grandkids. I couldn't relate to him anymore. I'm like, oh my God, this kid is so damn whiny, especially to grow up in the time in which he's growing up. And there a world war going on, spoiled little rich kid quit school and, spends a weekend in New York. I could not get behind the book at all. When I did read it, I got about halfway through it and I paused for about 3 months because I kept it in my backpack. And every time I would go sifting through my backpack, I would see it and it'd be staring at me, taunting me. And I'm like, I have never let a book beat me before. And I'm not going to let this book beat me now. And I pushed through it. And I'm like, that was one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever read. Everybody must be out of their mind for loving it as much as they do. But the more I thought about it, the more I got it. And like I said, the narration is crazy. And I think that's why a lot of people didn't like it. And I knew a lot of people weren't going to like Starving Zoe because of that. But the ones who do like it, they absolutely love it. And they'll defend it. I've had a lot of people who love it defend it. And the crazy thing about that is the majority of the reviews or the ratings and the reviews on Goodreads, the women who read it actually rate it higher than the men for the most part. And I find that strange. I don't know why. Maybe because in the end he gets his. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weirdness. It's weirdness. But no, I stand behind this book 100%. I love it. It's just that very first review out the gate. Like I said, that individual, she's not associated with anyone. She reads and reviews every single indie horror book that comes out. It's like she's collecting us all like freaking Pokemon. I don't know. She reads every book that comes out. And for the most part, she gives fair and decent reviews. But I obviously touched a nerve at the very, very in the first chapter for her. I don't know. And she shit all over it first thing out the gate, but just didn't keep it to herself. Then she shared her review to all the indie horror and indie book Facebook pages, all the social media pages, and just immediately started a smear campaign against the book. Like I said, not an organization. This is somebody working as an individual. And it kicked me in the balls. Like I've been writing since 2007. Now I don't have a lot of works out there because I went through a divorce and that ex-wife had some connections, I guess, in Hollywood. And I owed her royalties if I continued to sell works that I published while we were together. So I took all of those titles off the market.
Wait, how many books of yours did you pull?
I pulled 1, 2, 3, I think 5 off the market from that I had published between 2007 and 2016 because she went after some of those titles during the divorce.
How?
Entertainment lawyers.
Wait. But you're talking about divorce court, right?
Yes.
But go after the titles for what purpose and what? I don't get it.
The reasoning was, and the judge was totally going for this too. The judge totally accepted this. The reasoning was because we were together while the books were being written, and she offered emotional support while I was writing these books, that I was going to have to give her 30% of royalties on those titles for the rest of my life.
Oh, even if the rights were under a different publisher,
right?
They couldn't overturn it somehow. Some clause or
no. She had some relatives out in Hollywood that are pretty big names in the old horror industry, and so rather than continue to make money off of those titles, I pulled them when the contracts expired. I pulled them. And they have faded away into obscurity. So I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that happening before. If you're a horror author or just an author in general, and you're watching this podcast, that can happen, man. That can happen. You go through a divorce, they can come and get some of your royalties.
Like, which ones would you be talking about? Like, not extinguished or
No. Extinguished came out like post I wrote Extinguished after the divorce. A Ghost Hunter's Journal, We Believe You, Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter. There was a poetry book called Reflections. There was another poetry book called Pages from the Bottom Drawer. And I want to say there's one more in there.
Unbelievable. I've never heard of that. You must be the unluckiest ex-husband ever. I see you've got an Oasis shirt, by the way. I love that band.
Yeah, man. Yeah. My wife just sprung this on me. She ordered it from China about a month ago. It was supposed to be a Christmas gift, and it just arrived today.
New wife.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Okay, so there was a happy ending.
Yes.
To some degree. Wow, I've never heard of that happening though. That they could just claim emotional support and get. And I mean, that's not even counting how much the publisher would take. The publisher would probably take like 10% more than you would if you're dealing with a traditional publisher. And then if she gets 30%, what's left for you, the author?
Nothing. Nothing. But, I'm sure she wasn't thinking about that at all.
No, but wow. So, but when I don't get a Holden Caulfield vibe from the main character at all. Like, the thing is that Holden Caulfield, for all his faults and ramblings and internal pretentiousness, he still is well intentioned. He wants to do good. He when he dreams of watching little kids play baseball, and he catches them from going off the top of the cliff or whatever, that's and then he like has a breakdown and passes out from trying to scrub all the profane graffiti off the walls.
Right. Yeah.
See, but I can't. But I mean, their main character in Starving Zoe, he does not exhibit any of these kinds of well-meaning traits. It's
absolutely not.
He is a scumbag from beginning to end.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I don't know if he deserved the witch's hex.
Right. I wanted to just do the narration style with a complete and total psychopath. And he was a complete and total psychopath from the very beginning. You look at his childhood that's explained in the very first chapter, and then his growing up years and how he ended up where he was. It's just complete. This guy had no chance whatsoever. From birth, he had no chance. And then, he goes off to the Civil War, comes back to find that while he's been gone, someone's messed up his fit.
And even the baby doesn't make it, quite out of this unscathed, shall we say, without spoiling anything. By the way, my one of my co-hosts and one of the longest reigning co-host has just joined, Ben Arzate. I don't know if you've heard of him.
What's up?
How's it going?
But
It's going well. Just got back from getting my hair did.
Oh, word. Yeah, me too.
So wait. So you said I'm not combing my hair for this shit show. So somebody else combed it for you for once.
Yeah. You better
So-
be. Yeah, it's a 10-hour show. Be grateful. It's like I went and got my hair did for the shit.
Yeah. By the way, I don't expect you to stay the whole 10 hours, Ben. This is strictly my masochistic venture here. But stay as long as you like. I appreciate somebody showing up. I know some others will be along later, and others it's probably we probably won't see them tonight. But that's the chance I took. 10-hour stream. I'm sticking by it. We're talking to C. Derick Miller, author of Starving Zoe from Death's Head Press. For those who are just joining us, the number did jump a little bit here in viewers. So I get this feeling, though, from all these reviewers who claim to be associated with Nightworms, who basically got free copies of these books, right?
See, I'm not sure how that all works. I'd never even heard of the Nightworms group until the splatter westerns began to be released, and I guess I finished the Magpie Coffin. I was one of the first people. I think I might have been the first person to review the 4 splatter westerns that came before me, and then the Nightworms reviews trickled down. And I remember reading the Nightworms reviews of the Magpie Coffin. And I'm like, whoa, these guys are being, like a lot of them like really liked it. And some of them were, this didn't do it for me. And I'm like, oh shit, they're going to hate mine. So, and I even told some of the guys with Death's Head, we went on a weekend writers retreat out in the middle of a swamp in East Texas.
Wait, physical, like actually in person?
Yes, like physical. Off at can't remember. I guess Caddo Lake, far East Texas. Socially distanced and everything, of course. But Patrick Harrison, Mike Innenbach, Chris Miller, myself, and Wiley Young. And we were reading things to each other, and I'm like, well, shit. I guess I'll give these guys a little taste of Starving Zoe, because this was probably 2 books before Starving Zoe was released. And I read them the first chapter of Starving Zoe. And I remember looking around the room after I was finished, and just kind of a mouths agape type thing, I knew mine was going to be divisive. I knew mine was going to be different. And I know there's been a lot of argument about Patrick Harrison's A Savage Breed. Mm-hmm. I've got that one on my bookshelf. I have not read it yet. I don't know what all the fuss about that one is, but I'd kind of watched the Nightworms thing, and then when they got a hold of mine, I knew from the things that they said about the other books in this series that they were just totally going to hate mine. So it did not surprise me at all when they started to give the reviews that they gave. I actually laughed at them quite a bit, because those negative reviews have drummed me up quite a bit of sales.
That's what I was about to say. In the end, I kind of went on a tangent about it when someone, a source of mine, presented it to me as if the Nightworms were straight up trying to take down Death's Head Press, and maybe I misinterpreted from them, or they misinterpreted or overreacted, and in turn made me overreact. I don't know, but I have heard it confirmed from several sources now that all this negative publicity has actually been good publicity, because it has increased sales, and that's something that I hadn't initially considered. I'm constantly in. I feel like I've been in culture war mode for so many years now. It's like someone taking a hammer to my funny bone or my knee or something. I just reflexes. But so I mean, yeah, that's good. I am slightly annoyed though that they keep getting free copies of this shit instead of paying what the whole $2 or $4 for if you're buying for Kindle. I mean, can't they just buy it themselves? Why do they have to keep getting hand-me-downs from the publisher.
See, I'm not even sure how that works, man. I know Death's Head. I've been very fortunate with those guys because first thing out the gate, they released And Hell Followed, which was an anthology. It ended up winning 2020 Splatterpunk Anthology of the Year. I have a short story in that one, and they've got some really talented people there, and they're new. They're only maybe 2 years old, and there's so much hype around Death's Head Press, and I'm not quite sure what they do when it comes to like advanced reader copies or anything. That's a Jared Barbie and a Patrick Harrison thing. Did I say Harrison? God, my day job boss's name is Harrison. Patrick Harris III. Yeah, that's kind of their thing, and that's the one thing I have noticed about Death's Head is the authors don't meddle in the publisher's business, and the publishers really don't meddle in the author's business. We kind of keep that respect gap there, where we all talk all the time and we joke and we jest, but when it comes down to business, we try to keep that separate. There have been several publishers that I've been with in the past where there's just line crossing back and forth all the time, and it causes a lot of infighting. And then the next thing you know, the publishing house suffers, and then it's no more. It dies. And I don't think that's something that's going to happen with these group of guys. They're really good. But as far as like their relationship with like Nightworms, like I know Jared and I guess Sadie is one, if not the big person with Nightworms. I know Jared and Sadie have a very good working relationship. I've reached out to, I don't know if John Lynch has a big hand in it at all. I know he's part of it. I don't know if he's one of the leaders, but he and I have a fairly decent relationship. And that's where a lot of the confusion came from. Like I said, there was a person that was not associated with Nightworms that gave me as a person, not the book. Well, they gave the book a crappy review, but they gave me a person a very crappy review because of the character I wrote. And it just happened to coincide with the Nightworms release too. So there was a lot of people that thought I was taking digs at Nightworms. Totally wasn't. I mean, I would say the name of the reviewer, but I don't want to give her any more power than I already did. I went off for weeks just screaming and crying about this one person's review, because it wasn't a review of the book. It was a review of me as a person. And there's not that many people in this industry who know me as a person. You can say I'm a misogynist all you like, but I've raised 3 daughters to adulthood. I'm not an animal abuser. I got 2 cats. It's just, I don't know. She took a dig.
A lot of these people apparently can't, delineate or determine the line between fiction and reality. I think we have all been raised up on fiction to such a higher degree than previous generations that we kind of just associate it all together. I really do.
I mean, look at Star Wars. Prior to The Mandalorian, look at the state that Star Wars was in. Kathleen Kennedy and all her Lucasfilm bullshit at Disney, and look at how the last couple of movies panned out for them with I guess the woke culture and I mean, I get it. I'm married to a very political woman. She is very socialist tendencies. She comes from a family who have had their hands in this forever. But even she was like, okay, this is way too far. This is crazy. And it was totally crazy. I mean, yes, I wrote a character who is very misogynistic. He was very, very mean towards animals and children, and he was
splatterpunk book though. It's a splatterpunk Western thing. So I mean, what is he supposed to bring the dead girl a bouquet of flowers to make everything right? I mean,
it was period accurate.
Yeah.
If This is how an asshole would treat people in 1865.
Yeah.
I made it
crazy.
period accurate.
It was crazy the amount of hell that he went through when the witch worked her little hex. I mean, the rest of the book, he was suffering, probably worse than anybody.
Yeah, there was a couple of parts that were pretty rough.
As far as Star Wars, who do you think was the most interesting character? If the films were at least passable, I found most of them at least passable. I feel like Finn or the pilot guy whose name I forget were more interesting than Rey.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars nut. My son's legal name is Anakin.
That is awesome.
he's actually he's about to turn 20, so he was born right after the release of Phantom Menace. He's in the Army now. He came home from Hawaii for the holidays, so he's downstairs asleep on the couch right now. But
what's that, Ben? Ben, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say being named Anakin after Phantom Menace. But you probably didn't know how bad that shit was going to be.
No, because I said, and well, let's see, I'm going to date myself here. I guess Return of the Jedi was what, 1982?
Really?
I think Return of the Jedi was 1982, and that was originally before the special editions. That was the first time you ever heard the name Anakin Skywalker. And I said, as a little kid, I guess I was 9 years old, 10 years old then. I said, as a little kid, I'm like, Anakin, man, that is the coolest name I've ever heard. I can't have that name. So what I'm going to do, I promised myself right then, sitting in the front row of the movie theater at age 10, if I ever have a son, that's what I'm going to name him. And the woman I was married to, his mother, we fought about it for like 4 months, 5 months, I guess, after we found out the gender of the kid.
And then you used the Force on her.
No, I waited until she was knocked out from the pain meds, and they brought in the birth certificate. and the nurse is like, "Here, honey, give this to her when she wakes up." I'm like, "No, baby, I got this. Send it here right now. Give me that." I filled it out, and she woke up with an Anakin.
Oh my God. What is your favorite Western? You must have, I don't know if you're normally a fan of Westerns, but you had to have at least done research at some point if you weren't. So what Western speaks to you the most, Man,
when I was in the military, I spent like the last few years stationed at a place called Fort Huachuca, Arizona, which is about 15-20 minutes away from Tombstone. So living that close to Tombstone, of course, you're going to watch Tombstone over and over and over again. And I did watch that for a lot of reference. I've never been a big fan of Westerns. I haven't, but I've spent a lot of time in the desert. Arizona, New Mexico, California. I used to go out into the middle of nowhere when I lived in Arizona and explore old abandoned ghost towns and mines and caves and stuff like that. And I kind of with that personal feeling and that personal knowledge of doing all those things, I just kind of went into my own head and just ramble, just get as hopped up on caffeine as I possibly could, and just write down whatever my mind was rambling at the time.
Now, I found it odd that he would mention something about Australians. I mean, were Australians really migrating back then? I thought that everything was pretty much landlocked, or if that's the right term, or people weren't really aware of places that far out in the Western period.
No, so the Australians were actually trading with the Americans during the Civil War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went through this book with a fine-tooth comb as far as like accuracy and words, just everything. And then I had someone else go behind me who was way more diligent than I am and just make sure. I mean, I continued to make edits to this book like until a week before it went to the press. And I finished writing Starving Zoe a year ago. Mm-hmm. And Like the one thing I wanted to go over is one of somebody's review of this. They actually counted the number of times I said certain words, and it says I used the word bitch 80 times, whore 29 times, just dick 43 times, and just I want this person to know that they got the watered down version of this book, because a week before it went to press, I went through and I cut out hundreds of profanity, just hundreds of dirty words. I cut out because it was, like I said, the main character is just you're rambling inside of his head for 140 pages, and that's how we all talk. That's how we all think. You know, that's exactly what I got. I put myself into the mentality of someone from 1865 who had been through the things that he had been through. And plus, I said, I was in the Army. I've done time in the Army. I know what it's like to be a soldier. I know what it's like to be scared. I know what it's like to be away from your family and your loved ones. And I just disappeared inside my own head and wrote whatever came to mind. Even if the ramblings of about the two, he goes on forever about two bugs fucking up next to a lantern, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Just you haven't written anything since Starving Zoe, at least not published it yet, right?
No, I have not. And that's the other kicker is, and hey, people are going to see this and they're going to be, oh, don't go, stop being a pussy. Since I got that bad review, I mean, I got really down on myself, and I know it's okay. It's a bad review. Your books are going to get bad reviews. Like I said, I've been writing since 2007. It's not the first bad review I've got, but it's the first one that I couldn't laugh off because they took a personal stab at me of who I am as a person because of a character I wrote. And it actually depressed me, like, badly.
I don't think you should let it depress you.
I don't think it should either. It's just, depression, anxiety, especially when we're living during a pandemic. It's not something that we can actually control. And it did. It depressed me to the point to where I haven't read a book since then.
Oh, come on, man.
Seriously, I haven't read a book since then. I haven't written anything at all since then. I'm not there. And I don't know what it's going to take to get me there. But
you're not giving up, right? I mean,
oh no, absolutely not. No, I'm the senior writer, junior producer for a production company here in Dallas. I'm working on a Netflix series right now.
Can you tell us what it is, or hint? Can you hint? Can you
yes. I can tell you all kinds of things about it. It's a series that we're calling Texas Injustice. I'm from Dallas, Texas. It's a series that we're calling Texas Injustice. It's about the 2005 Woodruff murders from the Dallas area. It was about a young college boy who was railroaded into a double homicide conviction just because he was living a secret life as a homosexual. The investigators, the Texas Rangers, the jury all believed that if he could lie about his homosexual lifestyle, then he could lie about killing his parents.
Huh. That's really extreme. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
It's a true story. It's a true story. And we begin filming in 2 weeks. I'm not very happy about this, but I have to dress up inside of a Klan uniform and recreate a Klan rally. Like I said, I'm not happy about this, but it has to be, it's something that actually happened. We have to actually film things that happen. So, but yeah, no, I've been working on that.
That's going to generate some more negative publicity.
Right. It is. It totally is. I'm also with the production company. We have the American Justice podcast. We just finished our first season. We're about to begin on season 2.
So you're competing with Serial, basically. You're on that level with Serial, This American Life and all that, right?
Right. And we're actually, with season 2 of the American Justice podcast, we're actually working some with the guys at True Crime Garage. So it's starting to pick up pace. And yeah, I've got a ton of other things going on. We did a promo for a film that we were supposed to film this past summer called Warning Signs. And it looks like if we can all get vaccines and the pandemic can go to hell, then, I'll be working on that film as well. I stay busy. I stay totally busy. But as far as just being able to sit down and write, I've got ideas. I've got 3 or 4 books inside my head right now. I can't sit down and do anything with them because I'm not there yet.
Man, I hope you do get there because, there's never been a richer time for to pull from the news and do social commentary for both sides,
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to ask. Okay, while we're talking about, mysterious cases, cold cases or whatnot, and, this American justice thing, what do you think happened with Christopher Walken and Natasha Wagner's mother and the other guy? You know what I'm talking about? In the boat?
I have no idea.
See, to this day, Christopher Walken won't talk about it, and I think the other guy is deceased, but she was lost in the water, she fell overboard or something, and I mean, it just seemed all very, very sketchy, but it hasn't prevented Christopher Walken from having a successful career, and I don't remember much about the other guy, but he went on, as a fairly successful actor too. But yeah, this woman died.
Now you're gonna make me look into this now because seriously, I've never heard of it. I take it this happened quite a bit ago.
Yes, Ben.
Are you sure something? You're not just describing the plot to "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins?
Wow, accurate. Have you read any of the splatter westerns, Ben? Yet?
Not yet. I have, I think, 2 of them on my Kindle. I have to get around to them, though.
Yeah.
I want to say the newest one hits on Tuesday, I believe. Christopher Triana, 13th Coyote. That one's a monster. That one is like 500 pages.
Damn.
It's going to be great. Christopher Triana is a god in indie horror, man. I don't know if any of you guys have read Full Brutal, but man, Full Brutal, like I fell in love with that book from like the first chapter.
He does a YouTube show himself with John Wayne
Communale. Vital social issues and stuff with Chris and John Wayne.
Yeah.
I never missed an episode.
The girl on the cover of Full Brutal looks like that one chick in the Human Centipede.
Yeah, she kind of does.
It's not, is it? Is it her?
I don't think so. I had the pleasure of meeting both of those guys at KillerCon Austin 2019, and they are just as cool, like in real life, as they appear to be on their podcast. So they're really awesome guys.
I met John Wayne several years ago in Oregon. Yeah, he may even stop by tonight, hopefully, but a little later. But we were talking about westerns. I always I'm gonna be pretty like basic bitch on this one and say that my favorite is probably The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, just because every shot, every moment of dialogue, every building of tension is perfect. It's perfect in every way. But I also have an underrated favorite in Pale Rider. Anybody seen that one?
It's been a long time since I've seen that one. A very long time. I like it. My parents, my grandparents, they all watched westerns when I was growing up, and I think that's why I didn't, because none of us want to grow up and be exactly like our parents. All our parents suck, right? So they were into it. I didn't care. I didn't watch Gunsmoke on Saturdays or whatever. God. The Rifleman, all that bullshit. I didn't do that. I really didn't get into the Old West culture until I lived in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, and just you just look around. When you're out, if you're ever lucky enough to be out that direction, and just like at sunset, man, you just look around at the sun going down behind the mountains and the desert and everything, and you're just like, wow, this is exactly what it was like, minus the cars, the smog, the airplanes, the everything, way back then. And living in the
directors, I'm sorry.
No. I fell in love with it living out there, and I would look for, caves, mines, old ghost towns, go play with rattlesnakes, whatever, just the whole Old West culture, which I think was also the rattlesnake thing with the baby. I knew there were people that were just going to close the book at that point, but I just felt like I needed to go there.
Yeah. I think my own favorite Western would be Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch.
Yeah, that's a good one. How many of you guys here have seen what I consider the best modern Western, Bone Tomahawk, right?
Have not seen it.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen that yet, no.
But you're aware of the guy who wrote it. He's written some novels, right? Ben, you've heard of him, right?
He's actually been published through Raw Dog Screaming, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so,
Am I thinking
yeah.
of the right guy?
Or Journal Stone. He may have been published by Journal Stone.
I just recently watched The Pale Door.
I think I have one of his books.
The Pale Door is a Western. I believe it came out through Shudder not too long ago. It was released during the pandemic. And it looks like it was hurriedly released due to the pandemic. I wasn't a big fan of that. I was expecting so much more. I hear Bone Tomahawk is better. I'm going to have to go check that out.
Man, Owen Wilson. No, that's not his name, is it? Is it Patrick Wilson? The guy who was Night Owl and Watchmen, and he plays in Bone Tomahawk. Patrick Wilson. He's a powerhouse of an actor, man. He's got pretty much the lead in Bone Tomahawk, and Kurt Russell plays a sheriff, but he's kind of like in the background. He's a secondary character to Owen Wilson or Patrick Wilson, the guy who's trying to hunt down this tribe of cannibals and get his wife back. It's pretty wicked, though.
Have to check that one out for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so the 13th Coyote, you said it's going to be 500 pages. It's the last installment in Death's Head Press's Splatter Western series.
No, it is not the last.
Well, but they say book 8 of 8.
Really? No, I was under the impression that they were going to release, like there in the beginning, I believe there was 10, and now I think it's 13 Splatter Westerns, unless I'm just way off. Okay, if you're seeing that information on Amazon, when mine was released, it said 5 of 5, and then when the next one came out, it was 6 of 6. When the next one, that's how they're doing the numbering. But there are more Splatter Westerns that are coming out after the 13th Coyote. I believe there are 13 in all.
Look at that cover. Oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Dude, I wish I could show you. I would have to move my computer to show you, but in my stairwell, I have a giant canvas painting of the cover of Starving Zoe inside of a shadow box. Justin T. Coons sent me the high res file, and I had it painted. So every time I walk down my stairs, I see Justin T. Coons artwork. And man, it's great. It's great. He does some damn good work, and I've seen on social media where he's really starting to branch out and do work for other publishers as well. So this guy, he deserves so much credit. I can tell you right now, I know there's a hell of a lot less people would have bought Starving Zoe if it wasn't for that cover. I mean, people say you never judge a book by its cover. Bullshit. Everybody judges a book by its cover.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Amy in the last scene of Fright Night.
Yeah.
When she's like, "You promised you wouldn't let them get me, Charlie," and then, oh my God.
Things I didn't even notice about the Starving Zoe cover until after it got printed on canvas. Because I'm 5'6", and this thing's as big as I am. It's huge. And I just looking at the cover, you noticed behind Robert Jack, there's the stars and the night, and then split down the middle on the other side with Zoe is the sunrise, and it almost has kind of a Mandy feel to it, I think. I don't know if you guys ever saw
I
Mandy
love
with
Mandy.
Nicolas Cage. I love it too, man. It's good shit. But it's very, very cosmic background with her in the foreground, and the detail on Zoe is just crazy.
You're right. I didn't notice that before, but yeah, the stars up here and the sun right here, and I never even noticed the guy. What's his name again?
Robert Jack.
Yeah, I never even noticed him there. I mean, it's just that hideous, grotesque Baraka face
Right.
that just reeled me in. I mean, that is definitely. I think that is legitimately the best cover out of all these. But the 13th Coyote is pretty beautiful.
13th Coyote is badass.
I think that these Nightworms people, and I only bring them up because apparently so many other people take them seriously. I had never heard of them, and still don't know much about them. But I think that they did not. The only ones that they gave pretty fair reviews to was Hunger on the Chisholm Trail.
Yeah, that one's Mike Innenbach's. That they're all good. I read the first 4, and then I wrote number 5. I have not read 6 or 7, and my copy of 8 will be arriving next week. I've really got to get to work, and it's. I think I promised myself that I would get off my ass after New Year's. I would just take those precious few little months with my bout with depression, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, and just take a few months off. And that time's over now. It's time for me to get up, dust myself off, and get back on the damn horse. No pun intended. I do have a Starving Zoe sequel outlined.
Oh, really? Now,
Yeah.
I wonder if it could be the guy this time. But yeah, it's you don't have. We'll leave it. That's just my imagining. But
Sequel, yeah, spinoff. I don't know if I'd call it a sequel, but a spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have one in mind, and I plan on sitting down next week and just seeing what happens.
there was a lot of talk about influences and inspirations when an interviewer or a reader talks to a writer. I want to know what books changed you that you would still swear by, to your dying day. What books make you go, yeah?
Too easy. And this is a great story, especially if you're a rock fan. I don't, there used to be a channel called MTV, and it used to play music.
Imagine that.
Unbelievable, man. People don't know that shit. And the Guns N' Roses music video for November Rain, if you watched it all the way to the end, it says based on the short story Without You by Del James. And it was my life's ambition to read that short story back when that video came out in 1991, 1992. But the internet wasn't even really a thing then. And you couldn't find books like you can find them now. You had to physically go into bookstores and try to find shit. And Del James didn't have a whole lot out at the time, and I couldn't find a bookstore where anyone had ever heard of him. And life happens. You get older, you get involved in other things. You forget about your pursuits of being a younger person. And I never thought about it again after that. And I guess it was in 2004. I'd gotten out of the Army. I'd lived out in LA for a little while, moved back to Texas. My uncle, I was helping him move, and he pulled this old beat up paperback out of a milk crate. Didn't have a cover or anything. And he's like, "Oh, hey man, you still a big GNR guy. I found this for you at a garage sale." And it was a book of short stories by Del James called The Language of Fear.
Yeah.
It had that short story in it, Without You. So I went home that night. I read that book. I read it until the sun came up. I did not stop. I just could not stop reading it. And I put that book down, and I went over to my computer, and I wrote my very first short story right after reading that book. That book was enough to make me want to be a professional writer. I had always heard throughout my life, oh man, your poetry is really good, or your essays are really good. You should be a writer. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Because that's the way we were. I mean, I'm 47 years old. When I was a teenager, I was not going to do the things that people told me I should do, and that was it. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. But then after reading that Del James book in 2004, I knew I wanted to be a writer at that time. So I started writing short stories. And I guess it was when my second novel was about to be released. I actually tracked Del James down on MySpace. Everybody remember that shit?
Yeah.
And he and I started to correspond. And Axl Rose wrote Del James's intro in The Language of Fear. Del James wrote my intro in my book, Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter, which is one of the ones that's no longer on the market.
Oh,
but he wrote the intro for me. And just I thought it was the greatest fucking thing ever, man, because he is responsible for who I am. And now he's like the tour manager for GNR. He's written some other stuff. But I stand behind The Language of Fear 100%. It's a great book, especially if you've ever had the displeasure of living in Los Angeles and spent a lot of time in Hollywood. That those stories will hit home. Every single one of those stories will hit home. It's just perfect. I didn't know that we were allowed to write shit like that until I read The Language of Fear by Del James.
See, I had no idea that the November Rain video was based on a story. That's crazy.
Yeah, it totally is, man. If you, I don't know if you're a Kindle guy. I know most of us are now. You can pick it. The Language of Fear. Pick it up on Amazon, man. You will not be disappointed, dude.
$8.99. Yeah. Wow. I'm definitely more of a Kindle guy these days. I don't have physical room much anymore, for physical books. It's crazy. I've got 4,800 Kindle books, though.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. We have 3 bookshelves downstairs, and there's books stacked on top of other books now. We're out of room. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to buy a bigger house now because of the books.
And you look at them and you think, well, I can't part with this one, What if I need this one later on for references for something? This one, I've read this cover to cover 5 times. I refuse to get rid of it. You can't sacrifice any of them. I've never read this one, so I definitely can't get rid of that. I'm going to read it someday. You can't do it,
Yeah. I've got a to be read pile down there that's crazy. I've still got a Joe Lansdale book, a collection down there that I got last Christmas that I still haven't cracked the cover on yet. So it's lots of cool stuff on the bookshelf. That's between me and the wife.
I'm pretty much like a book hunter now. I mean, I haven't been done it as eccentrically as like traveling to Rennes-le-Chateau, to some temple to get a rare tome from a curator or a monk or something. I'm not that deep into it, but I have been known to spend upwards of double digits to procure certain rare books, under $100, but
right.
More than they probably should have been charging me for.
Well, I have a day job. Most of us do. And my day job is I work logistics for the fine art industry. So I've actually placed my hands on the Gutenberg Bibles. I get priceless comic books coming in front of me all the time. Like comic books that are worth over $1 million, like just old Supermans, old Batmans, things like that. Some of the books that I don't know if I could ever personally spend that much money on something like that. I'm really happy to have like the few collector's items that I have that didn't cost all that much, but they meant something to me. I can't imagine spending millions of dollars on books. Something I'm never going to pick up and enjoy. Hell, I got a comic book for Christmas from my wife. It's like a new Ninja Turtles series that's out. I still haven't taken it out of the bag and read it. I don't even know what the story is. I'm probably never going to touch it with my own hands, but
you're glad to have it though.
I am damn glad to have it. Damn glad to have it.
Ben, did you have anything? We're probably going to wrap here in a minute on this portion. Did you have anything for him for C? What does the C stand for?
My first name is Chad.
Okay. Did you have anything for Chad?
No, I don't have anything to contribute. I'm a useless barnacle.
C. Derick Miller has talked enough. We're good.
Well, I appreciate you coming by.
No problem, man.
Starving Zoe, that's my first foray into the Splatter Western series, and I'm gonna see what the fuss is about with Savage Breed next, probably. But
that's next on my list as well. So
I am so sorry for what happened with all those books in your old catalog, that I've never heard of that happening with any other author.
I'd never heard of it either until it happened.
That is crazy. But what if you had done some trickery with a pen name to get it? I mean,
anything, if she would have found out that I would have done something like that, and she would have, she would have found out, and they would have come after me. It's just, like I said, it's a horrible thing, but I look at those books as a part of that life that I had back then. I'm no longer a part of that life, and it's like moving forward, man. Just sometimes you just got to let it go.
Well, good luck on letting it go, and I guess we're gonna let you go now. But I appreciate you coming. And
nice segue, yeah.
if you ever want to stop by to promote something, to take issue with something, to rant, or even just to chill out with the rest of us regulars, I would be open to that. So, yeah.
I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
All right, y'all take it easy.
Thanks, sir. Share the link if you could.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
See ya.
So, thanks for coming, Ben. I don't expect a lot of our regulars to be around tonight. See, I pulled it. I originally had this planned for a Sunday, January 3rd, and then I talked to you, at least you and Gregor. I don't know about Zach, and I said, you guys think you could hang out for a 10-hour show if I put it on Saturday instead? And you guys said yes. But now it's turning out like everybody's got stuff going on. It's the first of the year. I'm not mad or nothing, or disappointed. But I'm not expecting a lot of our, semi-regulars tonight. I don't know if I didn't promote it enough or if just, the consequences of life happened, but I fully intend to make this a crazy show, even if I'm just one, on my own banging pots and pans or something. But